Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
TFG Interviews is an IVM production, and you can also check out their other awesome shows like Simplified, a show that explains intense topic from around the world and simplifies it for you so that you can appear cooler in front of your friends.
You're listening to TFG Interviews.
Well, this is the new episode of the TFG Interview podcast because this is where we get exclusive interviews, stories, chats with players, coaches, owners, etc., but everyone related to sports and sports field. And today we have an owner of a football club, Fateh Hyderabad. He goes by the name Yogesh Maurya. Chiranjeet was in conversation with him and they finished 4th in the 2nd division this season. Well, Chiranjeet, why don't you give us some gist about what the conversation was about?
Yeah, so first of all, this is like more than an hour of just two people talking football. So if you're not into really geeky details about how football is run and how varied the visions for the future can be for Indian football, maybe this is not for you.
But that's the heads up. But if you love it, hang in there.
Yeah, but I just wanted to talk to him because Fateh Hyderabad Athletic and Football Club, they have sort of a very different model and mode of existence from most other clubs in India, and the kind of vision they have come in with, it's a bit refreshing and a lot more mature from what we see from some of the I-League biggies, as well as ISL teams. You know, it's a proper long-term vision, and it's so rare in Indian football right now. So I wanted to have him talk in length about that.
Yeah, I think you wanted to do this for a very long time, and finally you got it.
Seriously, and Hyderabad is close to my heart because I studied there during my masters, and it's great to see a club coming out of there. And he's a former player. He grew up in the US. He was playing, and he's got an AFC B license.
Okay.
So he's also the coach of the team. Okay, and I was kind of curious to get into how it is for an owner to also be the coach and all that stuff. Talk about different hats and everything. So just listen to him and sort of notice the difference that we see in Indian football now, where player contracts don't exceed 1 year, and everything is about breaking even in the next 3 years or making profit right now. Right. And attracting sponsors, and this approach that it can be done another way as well and have real impact in football development. So please listen in.
Yeah.
When we hear about Hyderabad, we don't really think of it as a footballing city. I mean, it has produced some really good players in the past, but recent times we have not seen any teams or even the Andhra Pradesh team in the Santosh Trophy doing well, or there being much of a football following. It's something like Pune, the situation there. So what prompted you to start a club from Hyderabad?
Well, I knew, first of all, my family's from Hyderabad originally. So I knew a lot about Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Many businesses here in Hyderabad over my career. And I was very familiar with the city.
Yeah.
And knowing the past history and there is still a lot of football being played in Hyderabad, I thought, why not make this contribution? And it was always a wish of my father that I would do something in football for Hyderabad because he had witnessed its decline in its later years.
So you spent a number of years abroad, right? And so what was it that drove you to?
You're talking about the 5th or the 6th largest city of India with no professional football team. So it seemed like a good choice, an obvious choice, really. And it's well located. We're well connected to all the different geographies of India as well.
So was it a family connection or something more than that prompted you to, after spending a number of years abroad, come to India and do something in football?
Yeah, I mean, I was a player my whole life in America, and I had a connection to Hyderabad's past.
Yeah.
When I was a child, my father made sure we were quite aware of Hyderabad's glorious history. So there is a bit of an emotional connection to it. And having lived here and worked here for many years, it seemed like the obvious choice for us. We could have gone many places. I know that. And probably there's more obvious choices in terms of football being more developed.
Yeah.
But for our project being a long-term project and having a long-term outlook, and Hyderabad, kind of hungry to have a team,
Yeah.
it seemed like the smart thing to do to set ourselves up here. And, you have an opportunity. You basically have a blank sheet of paper. We could take some risk. We could try some things. And naturally, the Federation wanted to see football coming out of Hyderabad as well. So we had a match in terms of, our ambition and what the AFF wanted to see coming out of South India.
So, going into business in Hyderabad, as a club that's starting from scratch, just first you worked on your academy and slowly started to build from there. At a time when all the headlines are grabbed by the team splashing money, or ISL or I League, and all the drama that's happening at the top of the pyramid, what is life like for a second division club like Fateh Hyderabad, which is just trying to build on a smaller scale and expand from there?
It's just as busy, just as challenging as any football club is to run. It's just that, we don't have as much coverage for obvious reasons. But the work is just as hard. It's just as challenging. And it's just as enjoyable. I mean, I didn't get into this as a full-time endeavor and take all this on because we were looking for headlines. We just loved the game and wanted to see if we could contribute something, and maybe if we're doing some things in a different manner and thinking about football challenges in a different way, and maybe offering some solutions that are alternative to what some others are doing, and that helps, that'd be great.
All right. So, you started off as an academy, and just starting from the scratch and coming all the way here now that you have a rather young team, which is doing reasonably well in the second division, reached the final round of the second division league this season. So how does one make that progress? What are the big challenges that you have to overcome when you move from an early grassroots or academy-based organization to a professional side?
Well, you have to. First of all, you have to have the financing because it costs more money. That's a very simple equation. The second thing is you have to figure out how to be competitive, keeping in mind that signing your players on multi-year contracts and keeping them year-round is basically not feasible, because this year the second division ran from January to May. I mean, it was 5 months. So if you even think a 1-month preseason is worthwhile, or even 2 months, what do you do with your players for the other 5 months? So I think it's enormously challenging because you have to be able to take quick decisions with incomplete information and put together a good portion of your team closer to the start of the competition. At least in our case. In some, if you're in another state where their state league is a more prolonged competition, more competitive competition, then maybe your considerations are different. And it's not like I can field a completely local team here in Hyderabad. If we want to be really, really competitive right now, I'd like to have more players from Hyderabad in our team, but right now we do have to face the reality that to be as competitive as we've been, and this year especially, we have to bring in some players from outside. So that's part of the challenge, is how do you use your resources given that the right decision is never obvious.
So is it a bit of an extra challenge to get financing for a club in the lower division, considering all the eyeball and sponsors are going towards the top of the pyramid?
Absolutely. Our games aren't televised. This year they streamed a few games, and it's very hard to schedule all your games on the weekend because if you're using a municipal stadium like most of the teams are, there's often conflicts with dates. And there's also an attempt to keep travel costs low. So if a team is visiting one team on a weekend, they'll want to finish, if there's another game within that particular region, they'll want to finish that game midweek and come back. So you lose a weekend date.
Yeah.
So those are challenges. But again, you have to decide what is your objective and why are you doing it? Why are you in that league and what are you trying to achieve? No matter which league you're in India and around the world really, in football at least, you have to be prepared to face that you're going to operate in the red.
Yeah.
And you have to have very clear goals of why you're doing what you're doing and what you're trying to ultimately get out of it. And, our approach has been that the second division is great value if you want to get into pro football in your city, and you have a long-term outlook where you're investing in, like we are, in infrastructure and youth, and you're not bothered by whether other clubs are maybe spending more than you are. You're just sort of committed to your vision and you continue step by step. It doesn't make the other clubs wrong. There's many ways to go at football challenges, commercially and technically.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's what makes football so interesting. From the attitude of owners around the world to the viewpoint of off the field technical administrators to the on the field tactics, there's no one way that is proven to be successful.
So it's interesting to me when you say it's great value at a time when 99% of the teams in India are losing money, even the biggest ones. So how do you make it valuable, especially at a second division level when there's hardly much ticket sales or sponsorship or eyeballs?
See, if football was such an easy prospect of being a profitable business, the cost of clubs would be a lot more. It would be a much more expensive sport to get into, and a lot more people would be investing in it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nature of any industry. Once somebody is making money in it, more people get interested in investing in it. It's largely, unless it's some of the leagues in Europe, which have proven, obviously the Premier League is the big one, unless it's a very successful commercial model already, many sports leagues around the world, you're playing first of all, a desire to invest is based on a passion. And economically, you have to play for some kind of capital appreciation that you're expecting. Now, in the second division, why would I say that? Again, it goes back to your reasons for investing. Every investor has different reasons for why they're investing money into football. If someone's primary concern is commercial, the second division may not be a good decision. If your primary view, which is what ours is, was, okay, we want to bring football, we want to develop football in Hyderabad. So what are some of the ways we can do that? And we want to offer a pro football pathway, and we want to become a club that's in the community and in the city and becomes identified with Hyderabad and with sort of our region, Andhra, Telangana. Then, okay, what's a cost-effective way we can invest into that? And the second division, yes, it's low eyeballs. Yes, it has its issues from a marketing perspective. But the fact is this, today we're a pro team. I don't think there's anyone who's in pro football, at least, or in academy level football in India that hasn't heard of Fateh Hyderabad. Now, it hasn't come at the price of some of the other leagues that when you have to invest, which is, maybe for us and what we're trying to achieve and the timelines we have, it's good. We've gone from finishing last and being the worst team to finishing fourth, and had we had a few things go our way, honestly speaking, we might have finished second.
Yeah.
the table is a lot closer than the points are showing. And I said that last year when we finished last. We were a lot better than what the table was showing. So I didn't really feel like I had to change our model dramatically. And now, to go back to the business part, here's the thing. What are the primary revenues that a football team can get? One, in a really successful pro league, there's television revenue.
Yeah.
From whoever has bought the broadcasting rights. That's usually the biggest share of revenue.
Yeah.
Then you have ticketing, sponsorships, merchandising. Okay. And a smaller amount might be from training and services. Okay.
Yeah.
But all of these revenue streams are very weak in Indian football.
Yeah.
Even in the ISL or I League where you can sell tickets, they're not enough to meet your cash flow requirements by any means. So one thing that the second division has been good for me is it has forced me to think about what would it take and what do we need to invest in to be a club that can stand on its own 2 feet, let's say in the next 6 or 7 years. And it was almost like a problem-solving thing where the answer wasn't going to come to me immediately. I was quite sure of that, and I waited. I didn't think, okay, this is it, and I need to do this. I slowly just kept exploring and trying to think about ways to generate revenue. And there's lots of ways to go about it, and we've, through a series of introductions and discussions and exploration, we found what we think is the right way forward for us, and that's the joint venture we launched with Premier Education Group, where we're going into schools and teaching physical education for kids as young as 2 all the way up to 17, 18 years old. Now, what this does is, for us, number one, it makes our market a lot bigger than just football. We're teaching all sports. Number two, we're in the schools, so we're dealing with a lot more kids than our club could perhaps physically call for training, and that too only for football. So now we're doing multiple sport. We're in the schools with kids. We're in our community, in our city, doing something that's generating revenue as a business. So, and the potential of that is so enormous, just demographically, I don't need to tell people, India's population is growing, and it's growing largest at the youth age group. So it's a great segment to be investing in. That's why, people are investing in education business with greater and greater amounts because it's a space that is going to continually have demand. We see a pathway to our club standing on its own 2 feet. We see the ability to be in the community and be a traditional football club. To me, is something that becomes a part of that city or that village's fabric. It's providing something of value beyond entertainment.
Yeah.
You're in the community. You're working with youth. You're providing employment to people in the community. And then, of course, the last step is maybe the entertainment factor of a pro club and what that brings. Now, does that mean that if you're a franchise-based system with lots of marketing and investment that you're wrong? No, in today's day and age, that's very successful. But I think that largely you can consider football to be a very immature industry in India. And while all that maturity is taking place, for us, if we can establish a solid foundation of infrastructure and a solid business that's generating revenue that's completely related to what we do as a football club. Okay, it's sport, it's physical activity, it's impacting children and helping children understand how physical education and exercise and activity can be to their long-term health, confidence, happiness, and to help children discover what they like in physical education, then I think we're setting ourselves up to do more and more in the future and be sustainable as a football club. And while that's going on, perhaps the market will continue to mature and develop, and we'll be able to see the direction that the commercial aspect of professional football is taking and unfolding. Remember, this is a huge country.
Yeah.
It's going to be 1.5 billion people in a decade or a decade plus. I mean, It's not like 20 or whatever, 30, roughly 30 nationally pro teams are necessarily going to be consuming all the demand and desire to football.
Mm.
So I think there's a lot more to happen, a lot more to unfold, and we're just going step by step, day by day.
We'll go step by step all the way to the top in our discussion. But first, one thing I sort of want you to address is that when you see, communities like in Goa or Kerala or Bengal or Northeast, the communities that already have a inbuilt passion for football and a history with the game, it's easier to see a kid, try to pursue a career in football, right? And that is definitely not the case with Hyderabad, unfortunately, or Andhra Pradesh or Telangana for that matter. So it's how do you sort of try to bring that into that community or the cultural zeitgeist of the state as a football club, if you're trying to develop the sport in that area, or you're trying to encourage more and more local players to come out through your academy efforts or somebody else's? How do you do that?
Well, here's the thing. You don't try and tell people that you should be thinking of playing football just to become a pro. That's the big mistake, because professional football anywhere in the world is a very steep pyramid.
Yeah.
I mean, just take a look at India. You have, if you add the second division, the I-League and the ISL, and let's just leave out any expansion for a second. You have 8 plus 9, 17 plus 12 teams. You have less than 30 teams playing in a national format. And keep in mind, all the leagues are more or less seasonal. They're not year-round yet.
Yeah.
So if you take, and they're not operating in parallel, which, has been a point of contention with media headlines lately. So if you figure out the number of players, across these 30 teams, maybe it's 400 to 500 players, maybe less.
Yeah.
But there might be millions of kids playing football.
Yeah.
So if you dial that down to the Hyderabad city level, the majority of kids who play football are not going to turn professional. First of all, there's not enough pro jobs as a player. Two, it really takes a special level of talent and ability to be a professional football player anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So what happens to all the kids who try it, and what is their alternative? So, I think we need a bit of a rethink on this, and my views are maybe, I don't know if they're slightly, I don't know if I call them radical, but I do challenge conventional thinking. I don't believe that there is a scientifically proven way to develop a pro player. I think it's one of the most cost-inefficient processes in world sport. If you look at the dropout rate in academies in England, it's been discussed extensively by a lot in the game that a lot of money is going into academies, which if you take it per dollar, player produced per dollar, you're losing a lot of players along the way that you're investing in. So I think we need to rethink in terms of what it actually takes for a pro player to make it, and what type of role does a club have to play in developing that talent, and what is our responsibility to kids? Right now, clubs, what do they do if they think your kid isn't good enough? As young as age 12, maybe younger, they'll tell kids you're not good enough right now. And then what do they do to the kid? They just give up on the kid, and they don't know what's going to happen to him. Maybe some clubs, they stay in touch and they find out later the kid, they bring him back because he's improved or he's reached a level where they're more confident in bringing the player back. But ultimately, right now, the clubs have no responsibility or anything expected of them. Now, at Fateh Hyderabad, we want to be in the community, and we want to offer all kinds of pathways to success. And it doesn't just have to be as a pro player in football. Could be another sport that somebody may love football, but they may be excelling at another sport. And what factors do education have to play in that? I have players, I've seen players in the second division who I doubt will make it to even the I-League. And some of them do not have a good background in education either, nor would it be suitable to place some of them in a conventional job. So what do you do with players like this, and what's the responsibility you have? And I think all that needs a rethink. And I thought that, we're trying some things that are different.
So what is the alternative that you what do you entice a player with, or what do you encourage a player with? If they are choosing to devote a high amount of time and energy behind the sport with this kind of
entice. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, shouldn't have to entice a youngster with anything except their desire to achieve their goal.
But I'm actually talking about convincing the parents as well, because it's not their decision a lot of the times, right?
See, I just gave you an example. If I was telling the parent that, I'd like to work with your child, or I think your child has talent or something's there that we think we can work with them, the biggest thing I'm going to tell the parent is, even if it turns out that your child isn't good enough to make it pro, or even continue at an elite academy where it's extremely challenging and it can be stressful.
Yeah.
It's not just going to drop your kid. We have a multi-sport platform. And, I think that the whole angle of why, this is where I get back to it, of why are you investing?
Yeah.
And what are your goals? You have to really think it through. I mean, I get a lot of people who call me in. The only thing they want from us is help on the elite ladder solution. Always it's the elite ladder.
Yeah.
But the majority of kids are not elite players and are not going to become elite. Or even if they are elite, even after they achieve an elite recognition at under 13, under 15, under 8, they're still not making it to a pro contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe that you entice. I know in football there's payments, there's parents who are being given jobs, there's all kinds of things going on. At youth level, it's become so competitive in Europe. But I think if the child really loves football and they have ability and they've shown that and they have a desire to succeed, there shouldn't be any enticement required. It's something that they have to explore and they have to commit to with total faith, and they have to say, you know what, as long as I gave everything I had, and yes, I've educated myself and I've explored and I've learned how to set goals and achieve them. I've learned that life has physical aspects, mental aspects, emotional aspects. And when those three can be healthy and working in unison, I can be successful in anything I choose to do. And if I have a good education, nothing can stop me from achieving a new goal, even if it's not pro football. Then I think you've got a healthy attitude and the right expectation towards it.
So you talked about elite recognition being such a huge priority in football. So is Fateh Hyderabad going for a elite recognition for itself? Because there was a rumor that you were about to pick up an ISL bid last month at some point. Was there any truth to that?
No, we didn't pick up a bid and we did not bid. Did we talk about it? Yeah, our partnership group has had many discussions, and for various reasons, we're always assessing the business and the organization and what are our goals and what are we trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And at this time, while I did see that Hyderabad was included in the cities that they want to consider, which I think is fantastic. I think whether or not it'll be us one day or someone else, I do think Hyderabad is obviously showing that professional football and football in general is feasible here. So that's a good sign. Why are we sticking to our current plan? Simple. We just think that we still have a bit to learn. And like I said, right now my focus is on our joint venture and how to help that blossom and make a difference. And one, get out in the community, get out there with kids all over our city, and two, build up our infrastructure. We're building our home ground out, which is a big step, and focus on that while we ply our trade in the lower divisions. And then we'll see where we go from here in the future. We're taking the slow, long road at the moment. Doesn't mean that we don't trade up or step on the accelerator at some point along the way.
So you just mentioned you're building up a new stadium. Where is it? And what kind of infrastructure do you have in mind? Turf, natural grass, the capacity, and what level of football are you building it for?
Well, we're starting with a natural grass, and I say that because we've seen turf is great because the maintenance is low. You don't need a lot of water. and these are generally challenges in India. But I look at some of the long-term effects on the body that I'm seeing, and just anecdotal discussions with a lot of our players. Playing on turf every day can have a negative impact. And right now, I think if we look at what's best for us, it's definitely natural grass. I'm not saying we wouldn't add turf later, but I don't want to add an AstroTurf until we can add a really high quality carpet and sub-base, which are such an important part of an AstroTurf lasting long and being good to play on. And that's pretty expensive. So we're going with natural grass. And we're making sort of a mini kind of stadium that I think is suitable to our club's needs at the moment for the second division.
So how, you seem to have a very, well-suited, slow growth process economically, I'm saying, and you're adjusting your ambitions to fit that. What happens if you win the second division next season and you have to play in I-League, or if there is a chance for you to come into ISL? What do you see that? Do you see that as a sudden opportunity to jump forward, or is that a possible hindrance to the sustainability that you're trying to build over a long time period?
No, I don't think it's I would look at it as an opportunity, and I wouldn't look at it as a hindrance at all.
So
you have to have some ambition. I'm sitting here telling you we're on the slow and steady path, and we're fine with that. But at the same time, if you don't have some ambition within the club, then I think that your purpose gets diluted, your motivation, your reason for going and doing all this loses a lot of steam and weight. So there's got to be ambition. And if there's a hindrance, I'd say it's one of those situations where I would say it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. So I'm talking in the sense that right now you have a first team budget of less than 1 crore probably, and you have a system where the ISL is paid, and ISL is probably going to be the top division appointed over the next, at least within the next 2-3 years it seems. So right now they are giving 18 crore purse to every team, right? So is it feasible, or is it advisable for a club like Fateh Hyderabad to jump from 1 crore or 2 crore or 3 crores all the way to 18 crores? And
sure, it could be at some point. I mean, everything's a magnitude of relativity. It's still largely the same work inside the club. It's just a different magnitude of resource. But again, the job is the same. And for us, I would think that there's pros and cons of doing things the way we're doing them.
Yeah.
The con is it takes time. It's slow. And along the way, while you're learning very valuable lessons that are inexpensive, there is a lot of pain and sacrifice along the way. And there's the risk of the market continuing to change while you're carrying out your plan. But the pro aspect of it is this. You're certainly a lot more prepared to take bigger and bigger decisions. I mean, I've seen what happens when people who don't have a lot of experience jump into something. It could be any industry because they have a desire to do something, and the lessons are quite expensive because you don't have the experience. So naturally, you may not take great decisions. So the advantage for us is, when our time comes, we'll be ready.
So being ready, how ready would you be in terms of infrastructure if you are supposed to, if you gain promotion to the top division and that happens over the next 5 years, and probably by that time it would be ISL. So how much would you be prepared in terms of infrastructure? Would you have a stadium prepared to host ISL matches, which is, usually it's seen as a much bigger quality infrastructure that you require for it than second division or I-League?
Well, I'm curious to see, you have if you look at some of the ISL cities like Pune, for example, I don't think their attendance is particularly top-notch. It's a huge stadium, and the stadium's slightly outside the city, and I think that's a general problem for Pune, right? So where some places, are getting 10, 15,000 fans, and then you have the big numbers in Kerala, Northeast attendance. So a lot of it depends on what kind of atmosphere you're creating. A city like Hyderabad, when I look at the infrastructure, there really isn't a great venue for football in the city right now. And to me, considering various factors, I think the best approach is an intimate ground. And to me, that's 5,000 to 7,000 fans. And I don't think Hyderabad is the kind of market where if you're expecting 50,000 fans to come out, it's going to happen regularly.
Yeah.
So we're going to create an intimate atmosphere, and go step by step.
So step by step is the mantra for Fateh Hyderabad. What improvements do you see in the team over the last few years? Is there is the academy starting to bear fruit? Are there any players you are very excited about coming out of your grassroots or academy efforts that may play for you in the first team in the coming seasons?
I wouldn't say so, but yet. But we are, obviously having your own ground, you can do a lot more. And our under 13, under 15, under 18, our island teams are going to become year-round now.
Yeah.
And I would expect improvement from, what have been not so great performances the last few years. But then again, I still caution everyone that there is still this problem of age cheating going on in these youth competitions. And I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I'm just telling you anecdotally, when I see our team go against some of these teams, it's almost a joke. So having adjusted for that, I still think our teams will be better going forward. 3 examples I can give you that, for me, and why I keep saying this whole player development structure and mode, and why I'm questioning it. We have 3 players at Fateh Hyderabad in our second division team. Cal, who was 16 when he came to Fateh, Bonnie's son, who's 17, and Shivam, who I signed when he was 15. And these are 3 players who never played elite football their entire life before they came here. Now, Cal has been in the under-19 camp 2 years in a row now. He's down there again. Didn't quite make it, which may be a fair decision. He might be a little bit still kind of out of the main 18 or 20 players they want to work with. Maybe he'll push in this year. I don't know. He had a better year this year. Bonnie's son was invited to the under-17 national camp. Got cut at the last cut. It's pretty good for a player who's his elite level football training and experience is about a year and a half with us.
Yeah.
And then we've got Shivam, who's 17, and he received the most improved player award for our club this year.
Okay.
And he's a kid who just has a very good technical ability with both his feet, but he's very small. And to be fair, I don't think there's too many Ivy teams that would have picked him up.
Yeah.
But he's clipping at the heels of Tal and Bunny in terms of his ability. Now, are these 3 players absolutely going to be national team players? We don't know. Are they obviously national players? No. But what did we do? We brought them in. We've put them against older, more mature, physically and technically more capable players in training every day.
Yeah.
So you're in high-intensity training against better players. You're eating a decent diet. And in the case of Bonnie, Son, and Tal, we've given them a lot of games, meaningful minutes against second division teams. Now, everyone who's telling me that the problem is coaching, the problem is this or that or the other thing, I have to say, anecdotally, I'm not sure I agree with that because, even if you look at players, and I think we have 5 players from Manipur, if you look at how much talent's coming out of the Northeast, and if you ask the people running the clubs in the Northeast what they think about coaching out there, whether it's particularly spectacular, nobody's going to say that the development of Northeastern players being so great is because of the coaching. I've never heard that, and I've asked a lot of people about it. So what does that mean exactly in terms of what it takes to be a pro player? That's why I'm questioning and I'm asking the question about maybe we need a rethink. maybe it shouldn't cost as much money as some people are putting into it to develop a player. And maybe the models that we have in mind don't need to be as complicated as they are.
Yeah.
You know?
So, tied to the issue of coaching is that you had an experience of coaching the team as well as owning it. And some people sort of see it as a bit contentious. Should the owner be on the bench or how it should be? So what has your experience been like? And has it given you some valuable lessons or helped you? Has coaching helped you in your capacity as a team owner in some way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's not like I'm coaching without qualifications or ability. I was, you can ask Savio, who took our B license course, you can ask him who were the two best students he had. And other than Pradyum Reddy, who basically could have a pro license if he wants it and has been a great mentor to me, I don't think I'm being boastful by saying I was the next best student he had. And I've had the chance now, I've had to work with some players who played, AFC Cup in Courtage and Montpreet. They played as I-League champions on teams and have played youth level national team, all these guys. So I'm sure I can hold my own. How has it been as an experience, and was it the right decision? I say yes because, for me, the game is at the heart of everything. What happens on the pitch is at the heart of why we're in the game, And understanding players, understanding Indian football at that level has helped me understand what I think we need to do as an organization on and off the pitch to be successful. And am I going to do it next year? I don't think so. I'm not so sure. And I never intended to do it. Even when I started doing it, it wasn't my desire. To be honest. But I felt like, given our resources, it was the right decision. And it's certainly going to pay off because I know what we require as a club to go forward in any coaching member of the staff, whether it's the first team coach or it's within our academy. We have a very clear vision of what we think we need to do with our resources and how we need to develop football for the club.
So, coming back to the path forward, there's a huge contentious debate. Perhaps the biggest, most heated topic today is whether or not, after the restructuring of leagues is done, whether it should be an open league system or a closed league system with franchisee fee arrangements and everything. So, as a second division club, when you're looking at it and you're seeing a possibility that the direct path to the topmost tier of the league pyramid, it may close. So how do you react to that as somebody who belongs to a second division club?
I don't think anybody, even somebody who's in the first tier now, will disagree that in terms of sporting criteria, everybody would like to see an open system. I don't think it's a value system. But I understand the arguments for both. When you've invested the kind of money that ISL owners have, you can understand that they'll feel that their investments have to be protected because if one guy's paying a fee and has created all that value and now all of a sudden someone else can come in via promotion and say, for argument's sake, they don't have to pay a franchise fee and have not been subjected to all that investment cost previously that the current owner is, obviously from his shoes, that he feels that that's a real devaluation of his business plan.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of it is, I think we're already in a closed system. And that's why, I took some criticism from people when I said I thought that the merger pathway they presented was okay. Because for me, right now, the IFL has the better part of the calendar. It has more promotion, right?
Yeah.
And obviously it's more attractive for the players, and it's a better product. The I-League's been pushed back to the later months of the calendar. The second division, we're not even able to televise our games. This year they did, it was very, very nice. They online streamed a few of the matches, which was good. But if you looked at what they proposed to bring us all under one sort of banner and offer more identity and more promotion, of the two options, I thought that was better. Now we're heading towards, I don't know, a sort of parallel existence, I think, my sense is. And I'm not so sure a parallel existence with two different identities is better for us, given the system is closed for the time being. That being said, I did see some information that they're going to appoint a commission. And, I think I haven't done the exact economic analysis, but I'm pretty sure across industries, including sporting leagues, we'll find that leagues that have an open system have arguably more value in the industry, top to bottom. Now, that's just a hypothesis I have. I've not done the numbers and analysis to say so. And of course, when people talk about the Indian Super League and the I-League, they're often comparing to Major League Soccer in America. Yeah. It's a very similar situation. It's a closed system. The league was largely supported by the Anschutz family when it started. Obviously, there were heavy losses along the way to making it a sustainable offering. And we know that Manchester City paid, I think, $100 or $150 million fee to MLS to take the New York franchise. And of course, that $150 million, it's not like the league hadn't had significant investment. So they wanted to get some money back. And so the closed system has served them through this period. But there's still a lot of people who feel in a country like America, an open system will make the league much more valuable all across the table. So I see both sides of it. I don't have what the exact answer is right. I understand when you put money from your pocket, you want to protect your interests. So I can understand an ISL owner's viewpoint. I also can understand the legacy club's viewpoint. Goa, and I've said it before, Goa and West Bengal. Listen, when nobody wanted to invest in Indian football, these were the people who were carrying the sport. So to be told, hey, you're going to get relegated now, and there's no real basis for it, it's just a commercial basis, that's hard to swallow. I get that. And if I had been investing for 20 years or 30 years and someone said that to me, I'm sure I'd be seeing things from their lens. I can understand that. So it's a real challenging quagmire. If I offer an opinion, whether some people may not agree with me, in India now, I've been living here maybe better than 16, 17 years. And we're not, as a society, we're not always very collaborative and into the collaborative model as being the best way for everybody. So we're asking also, we're asking something where it's not completely a natural thing to do, that, make the pie bigger for everybody. And I say that seeing a lot of the contention, I'm seeing a lot of the headlines, and it's emotional, but, saving face is also a big part of politics. I'm not sure anyone's getting that opportunity with what I'm seeing here either. So, the only thing I say about Fateh is, that's why, again, I go back to why I've invested in this joint venture and why I've sort of readjusted our plan is, we want to be insulated from things that we can't control. And it's not in my control what the parties are going to do. We are a stakeholder in it, and we're a lesser of a stakeholder than the I-League clubs and the ISL teams and the federation. But we are a stakeholder. Doesn't mean I don't think we're important. But what I think is we don't have as much influence over what's going to be decided. And as a club, we want to sustain and we want to endure and we want to keep developing football. So the extent to which we can be prepared to deal with either scenario, open or closed, is what's important. And how have we thought that through is what's important. And I think we've really navigated it very well so far. And we have to continue to navigate that.
So I'll ask you a rather straight but hypothetical question, and it's not just related to Fateh Hyderabad.
Indian football in general. Do you think it's possible for a club that has an annual budget of 20 to 30 crores to be self-sustained at this point in Indian football?
Listen, I don't have privy to the numbers of clubs who are spending that right now. I do like the product, though, of the ISL. I think, it's clear that it's more marketable. And the only way, though, that I think a club who's spending that is going to be profitable is if the TV money justifies it. Okay. That's the only way. I don't see ticketing, sponsorship, and merchandise. When you take sponsorship, let's just remove TV sponsorship from it. I don't think those three can get you there. I think you need, and I don't think it's some great conclusion I'm using here. I think it's quite obvious to anybody who's looked at sports investing to know that what's the most valuable thing? It's the content, and it's live content. Live content is why sports are so valuable right now across the globe. It's like live news. These are the two things that are getting the most investment in terms of live content. So, hopefully football is that valuable to a television broadcaster who's, ready to pay premium for it, like the IPL. The majority of that income is broadcast revenue. So that's what I think you need to hit the 20 crore number from income. I believe that. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, then there's a lot more people who should be investing right now. Yeah.
So do you see, this is the last question, a crucial part of the vision that IMG Reliance presented for Indian football in their original roadmap that they proposed last year, it was that by a certain amount of year, let's say in the next 5 or 10 years, they need the number of clubs to grow at all divisions, right? Whether it's ISL I-League or whether it's ISL League 1, League 2, across all the divisions, they need the numbers to go to 50. And when the teams increase, the participation from investors and communities and cities grow wider, that would be a benchmark of success of what they're trying to implement. Do you see that kind of enthusiasm and possibility there in football? Do you see the possibility of that kind of expansion?
If you're asking me, is the possibility there for that kind of interest in Indian football? I definitely think that we could easily have 50 teams if we really wanted it.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that. As it is, there's enough clubs. Can they get the financing and will they have that ambition? I don't know. And to give you my honest answer about what I think IMG Reliance's view is, I'm not sure. I'm watching like everybody else. I would think, though, if you're a business person, if I look with a business hat, the most money has been put into the ISL, so they have to look out for that investment first. And I think they're going to have to do that because, owners have put in a lot of money, right? So you have to answer to them. And I would think they're going to protect that first before they worry about so much how many teams come in at the bottom rung. And listen, that's okay. I think that's completely rational. And remember another thing, this promotion and relegation thing is going to, at some point, to me, it becomes important. And I maybe not right away, but I'll tell you why. It goes back to something you asked me earlier, and I brought up the word ambition. Look, a country like America it's very wealthy. Obviously, per capita, it's a much wealthier country than India, and the sporting culture there is far more developed, far more advanced. The commercial market is more mature, and it's not a surprising development to me that other than the MLS, there are other football leagues that have teams that are getting 15,000, 20,000 people, and they're successful. Okay, it was naturally going to happen in that kind of economy where football has become so popular. In India, can you achieve that kind of situation where there's 2 leagues and it's closed off, and you have that kind of success? Well, here's what I think. yeah, in the Northeast, if you had only a league in the Northeast, okay, you and I both know, and many people in Indian football know, you'll get absolutely amazing attendance at every single game. It doesn't matter if it's ISL, I-League, or B-League, or C-League, or D-League. People love to watch football. They have a spectator culture there. But here's my caveat to the whole thing. Ambition is a real important thing. And I've had the good fortune to visit England many times, and football is in the fabric of communities in England. And many people talk about how you feel the passion there.
Yeah.
The clubs going down, all the league clubs down into conference, many of the clubs, they're community-oriented. They're a part of their village or city or a small town, and they play a huge role. And that ambition to get promoted or that desire to avoid relegation is a big factor in driving the value and the growth and the desire of people putting in what's required to keep football alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think at some point that has to come into play. In the second division, to be fair, if there was a third division, we should have been relegated based on our last year's performance.
Yeah.
So, we weren't because there's no third division.
Mm.
But, having lost, we had a motivation to come back. We still have some things to prove as a club. But let's say you get in the I-League and you win the I-League. Okay, well, what do you have to prove now? Okay, Asian continental competition, but if they set up two leagues going parallel, it's going to be very hard for you to hold on to the best Indian players.
Mm.
So how are you going to compete on the continent? So, at some point, I'm not saying now, maybe it's 3-4 years from now, maybe it's 5 years from now, maybe it's even 10 years from now. At some point, that for me, that promotion and relegation factor becomes really important because it will kill ambition. What's your reason to come back and keep doing it? At some point, it becomes a factor. For us, I can say, honestly, right now, it's not the biggest factor because right now, we're in a build mode. We're developing the sport in our city. We're also trying to create a more Hyderabad identity for our club. We want to feel more flexible. We're still in that process. So being at our level is actually an advantage for us right now. We have time to do that. But when we get there, in a few years, this question will start to come up, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to us. It's been really good having this long conversation with you and going really into the details of the journey that Fateh Hyderabad is going and the larger vision behind it. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Hey, thanks, Jeet. All the best. Cheers.
Yeah.
Well, you heard the man, and that is indeed a great conversation in length, just like you mentioned. And I'm pretty sure, I don't think anyone would not want to listen to this because it's just somebody. Yes, so what? It's something.
But if you're still listening to this, thank you. You're a trooper.
Yeah. And it's a great one. I think finally you must be relieved that you got this done. In the end.
No, just one of the things that always strikes me is that the real things, growing a sport within a community, investing in infrastructure to your to the scale that you really need, and having that long-term vision. These are things that Indian football really needs to grow, but the people who are at the top are not really focusing on that. The focus is somewhere else. So it's really good to hear these voices, and hopefully we get more people like him coming and talking about the whole thing in the podcast interview series.
Definitely. It's the interview podcast. We'll definitely have more interviews and stories to say. Now, that's all, folks. Just like Ranjit said, thank you so much for tuning into it, and have a great day. Have an awesome weekend. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, then do the honors, please. Like, share, subscribe to our channel. You can also listen to us on Audio Boom, SoundCloud, and various other podcasting apps. Enjoy your weekend. Come back to us. We'll, as usual, with our TFG football daily show, and that will be happening every day. Have a great weekend once again. Cheers.
एक्सक्यूज मी भैया, एक्सक्यूज मी।
बोलिए मैडम।
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वैक्स है, IVM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, ड्रिंक्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर जकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है। आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम। आप जाओ IVMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप, सब आपकी उंगलियों पे।